It's Hyper Halloween!
You know, I've looked at a lot of movies with weird monsters in the 2 years that I've worked on Hyper Halloween. STD ghosts, killer clowns, killer Santas, mimes, and my favorite, exploding birds. Here's one of the more out there monsters. At least until tomorrow. But today's movie, Jack Frost, is a movie about a killer snowman. A killer snowman who tries his best to be quirky like Freddy Krueger, but falls short in almost every way imaginable. It's a real Picasso of one-liners that really are made in America. And yes, those are some actual quotes from the film. Jack Frost was written and directed by Michael Cooney and released in 1997. This Jack Frost is not to be confused with the 1998 film of the same name starring Michael Keaton. Whereas the Keaton film is a family-friendly movie, albeit a somewhat depressing one, this Jack Frost is a horror comedy slasher film. The movie is set around the titular character, Jack Frost. Jack, played by Scott McDonald, is a serial killer that has killed 38 people throughout 11 states and has managed to evade arrest right up until the beginning of the film. Sam Tyler, played by Christopher Allport, is a small-town sheriff that managed to put an end to Jack's reign of terror. Jack is set to be executed at midnight, for reasons, and as the movie begins, we watch as his transport truck smashes into a truck that contains genetic research fluids. As you can guess, he gets genetic research fluids mixed in with his DNA. Or is Jack's DNA mixed into the genetic goop? Either way, his DNA combines with the snow around him, and he's able to form into a snowman. He doesn't really form into much else for some reason though. Well, at least not in this movie. Now that Jack is back and colder than ever, he sets off to get revenge on Sam and his family. Of course, in typical slasher film fashion, Jack attacks many of the other townsfolk before going after Sam. I won't go through those details of the movie because I feel like it's pretty standard. But Jack does kill the townfolk in very over-the-top ways, so here are a few notable kills. Jack Frost manages to kill someone by jamming an axe down their throat. It goes down handle first, and it looks like it's just sitting in his mouth. I mean, just look at it. There's no accurate way to describe this without sounding ridiculous, so take a look at the picture. Jack also kills someone by wrapping her up in Christmas lights and shoving ornaments in her face. Jack bites a guy's face to death with icicle teeth, and finally, the most iconic scene in the movie, Jack kills a female character by literally banging her. Repeatedly into a wall, that is. This scene is known as the rape death scene of the movie, but it apparently was never intended to be a rape scene. Cooney decided to just roll with it though, adding in the stupid sex puns because, they wouldn't be able to reshoot that scene. Regardless of the intention, it is a goofy scene no matter how you shoot it. Jack does his best to make one-liners and quips throughout the film. The filmmakers really want to make Jack Frost into the next Freddy Krueger, but unfortunately, he's not scary or funny. Most of his lines are just random, and they don't really add anything to the overall film. Going back to the deaths that I mentioned though, I wanted to take a moment to talk about Jack's powers. Jack's powers are inconsistent at best. He appears to have super strength, as is evident from jamming an axe handle down someone's throat, but he doesn't always exhibit super strength. There are scenes where he's stopped by a simple wooden door. Why wouldn't he just tear through the door if he has the strength to do so? It just doesn't really make sense to me. He's a gentle snowman murderer, I guess. Jack can also shoot icicles from his hand, but again, he doesn't use this often. It even seems like a great power to use to hit your target. Speaking of icicles, like I mentioned earlier, Jack can also grow sharp icicle teeth to maul his victims. And how many times do you think he does this? If you guessed one, you win. It honestly just seems like wasted potential. Jack can also possess people by melting down and entering their bodies. This leads to one of the most bizarre effects in the movie, and I'm guessing that it was most likely intended to be played for laughs, given that it's over as quickly as it began. The way Jack leaves the man's body is by being vomited out, and that effect looks equally ridiculous. I'll give you a guess to how many times Jack does this as well. The most frequent power that Jack uses, though, is his ability to melt and reform. He can reform very quickly, except when he's chasing people, apparently. The meltdown effect is mostly done off-screen, or with camera cuts. Other times, the audience is treated with puddles of water to indicate that Jack has melted down to move around. It's a power that kind of makes sense, but not really. I guess I shouldn't really look for logic in a Killer Snowman movie, though. Back to the movie itself, though. One thing I neglected to mention is the very bizarre introduction to this movie. It's a voiceover narration with a man reading a bedtime story to his niece. It's weird because I'm fairly certain the girl's voice is an adult trying to talk like a young girl, because it honestly sounds very bizarre. I'm also not sure why this is even needed in the film. It's only there to introduce the movie, but it's never referred to again, even at the end. So to frame the movie, this is either all a fictional story that this man is telling his niece, or it's an attempt at comedy. While I'm guessing it's the latter of those two thoughts, it's just confusing, and I'm not really sure why it was needed at all. Apparently the voice of the uncle was actually Michael Cooney's voice. Speaking of Michael Cooney, he was very dedicated to getting this film out. Cooney filmed Jack Frost in 18 days, and he also used short ends to keep the cost down. In addition, shooting took place during the winter in California, and unfortunately, there wasn't any snow that year and temperatures were pretty high. So most of the snow and ice that is shown in the film is fake. Apparently to achieve this effect, cotton swabs were used to help create the illusion of a winter wonderland. Amazingly enough, Jack Frost did receive a sequel called Jack Frost 2: Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. Jack Frost 2 continues the story of Sam and his wife as they're attacked by Jack Frost once again. Maybe I'll go into more detail on that movie in a future Hyper Halloween because I don't want to spoil that one here. Apparently a third Jack Frost was being planned with the tentative title of Jack Frost 3: The Last Coming. Unfortunately, Christopher Allport passed away in 2008 due to an avalanche, and it's hinted that Jack Frost 3 was shelved due to this. Michael Cooney did express interest in a third film, however, stating that he wants to feature a giant Jack Frost, or Jackzilla, that would terrorize a city. I think this needs to be crowdfunded immediately. I mean, if people paid to see Thanksgiving 3, they would pay to see Jack Frost 3. So, if you're interested in watching this movie, and honestly, why wouldn't you be, but you're afraid that it won't live up to the expectations, then might I suggest the Riff Tracks version. The Riff Tracks guys do a phenomenal job at riffing this film. Fair warning though, they do remove the snowman rape death from their version. You aren't missing out on that much either way, but if you want to view the entire film unedited, then you'll have to seek out the non-Riff Tracks version. Now, even though I've criticized Jack Frost through most of this review, I 100% recommend checking this film out. It's goofy enough in both premise and execution that I think it falls into cult film status. And it's goofy enough to keep viewers entertained. It's a so bad it's good film. So, if you're looking for a campy slasher film, give Jack Frost a try.